Welcome to the Veterans in Politics Talk Show. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.
Welcome to the Joint Veterans Endorsement Interviews for Non-Judicial Candidates. Beginning, I'd like to formally recognize and thank our sponsoring organizations for making today's event possible. Mary Perry, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department P, Veterans in Politics International, and Nevada Veterans Association. Also like to extend our sincere appreciation to our additional sponsors and community partners who support, help ensure a professional, fair, and transparent endorsement process. We're honored to have all of you with us today. Before we begin the interview, I'd like to just go over the rules and the format. First, each panel member will introduce themselves by stating their names and the organization that they represent. Next, you'll be given an opportunity to introduce yourself. Please include the name of the office that you're running for and explain why you're running for that position. Next, just understand that this is not a debate, so you don't have anyone to debate with. You can't talk to yourself, I guess. Just address the panel. And you'll be given 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. When you have 30 seconds remaining, you'll be shown a yellow card. When your time has expired, you'll be shown a blue card. You may finish your sentence, then you'll need to conclude your statement. Afterwards, you'll be given a minute to do a closing statement. So with that, we'll start with Tony.
Hi, my name is Tony Dane. I represent Veterans in Politics.
Hi, my name is Tara Kellogg. I represent Veterans in Politics with the Democratic Committee.
Oh, Tim Ross. I represent the Nevada Veterans Association.
Christensen, Veterans in Politics.
Martin Walker, Nevada Veterans Association.
My name is Douglas Candido. I'm running currently for State Assembly District-6. One of the big reasons why I decided to step into this role, I'm a union carpenter by trade, but I see the staggering statistics in my district, right? And one of the ones that always stands out is 11.5% unemployment currently. That's well above the national average. And when you think about it, a lot of these issues that stem from not having a job, right? What does that mean in the household? Well, that means a lot of divorce, a lot of mental health issues, children are struggling. So these issues start to trickle down a lot. And my main three priorities are diversifying the economy, right? And then the reason for that being we're able to start creating new avenues of taxation to start bolstering up community programs. Also, our second one is going to be workforce housing. Affordable housing is thrown out a lot, but most people don't qualify for affordable housing. So I'm not against affordable housing. We definitely need to expand and strengthen the safety net of affordable housing, but also expand it to a couple levels up because everyone's kind of hurting right now. And then the safer neighborhoods, but focusing on the safer neighborhoods with community-oriented planning behind it as well. So bringing these community members to the table and having those conversations with these groups. Those are my big three things. And yeah, I think that's about it for the introduction.
Thank you for coming here today. My first question is on education. Do you support a transgender education and a transgendered in sports?
Yeah, for me, when we look at it with the students, right, that comes down to really that's going to come down to the decisions of the parents, right? When it comes down to me as an individual, I don't have anything against it. I can't have anything against it. I think where we're looking at right now is there's a very like blatant attack on individuals' rights, and me personally, I can't really. I don't. That's not a how would I put it? That's not a situation for me to be against something like that. When I look at it is. These are situations that parents need to be having, and the school district doesn't necessarily need to be having so much influence on these decisions. Everything for me was always big on the household, right? Same thing with where I grew up with. It was always you follow the head of the house. That was always my father. So when it comes down to these decisions that are impacting children, it falls on the shoulders of the parents and not for the government to be making those decisions.
Just to follow up, just to be clear, that means you are against transgendered education in school, correct?
No, not. No, I'm not.
So you're in favor of transgender education in school.
So what do you? So when you mean that, you mean like us providing like the state providing education courses specifically on that?
Yes.
No, that I don't believe that should be in the curriculum. That's not something that I believe should be in the curriculum. I think we need to be focusing on the actual curriculum as far as the academics go.
Okay. And what about transgendered in the opposite sports?
When it comes to the opposite sports side, again, that's something that it's not really a topic that I really gave much thought to, honestly. But I wouldn't really have an issue against it when I go out there and speak about it. I mean, obviously, we're looking at heavy combat sports or heavy like impact sports. That's a different issue. That's a different conversation that has to be had. That's a tough one. I mean, I would think for swimming. I mean, when we look at it from the ports of competitive side, yes. It's competitive side, it's kind of proven scientifically that there is a scientific edge to different individuals competing in the sport. But for recreational sports, I don't have an issue with it. Yeah.
You spoke earlier about job insecurity and how that obviously it affects the children in the home, it affects the marriage, it affects the animals in the home, it affects every single aspect of the home when you have insecurity of the basic necessities. What tends to happen is divorce, unfortunately. How could you ensure, or how would you proceed with a person who clearly doesn't have, most people don't have $10,000, $20,000 to put down as a retainer for an attorney, so they're going to be a pro se litigant. How would you ensure that that pro se litigant has the same rights as anybody else, although they don't know the law because the law is in completely different language, but able to be on the same the same aspect and the same position as her soon-to-be ex-spouse?
For me, when we look at actually this situation occurs a lot in the building trades, right? We also have very prevalent rates of divorce in construction trades, so we see it in and out every single day. But when we start talking about it on the judicial side, right? I don't think there's not really enough resources for individuals that need that help, and that's where a lot of this funding needs to be coming from, right? One of my biggest things is always we need to be establishing a baseline of kind of revenue, right? Well, what is it that we actually build off of? Our budget kind of shifts a lot, so these programs that allocate funds for situations like this are constantly in a situation where they're chasing more money, right? Because they need more money. They have these individuals, but being able to create those funds in order to bolster up those programs, that's always been a priority for me when it comes to like the mental health effects and what happens after that because of the unemployment, right? I have to look at the issues behind it. So in order for me as a legislator, that's something we begin allocating these funds, right? And working with these community groups that give out these services in order to ensure that they have what they need. Because I mean, it's true, like you see it all the time. Both the husband, wife, whatever the situation is in a divorce, is someone ends up hurting, right? So like you're saying, it's always going to be a priority for us, especially in the trades. Also, another big problem, we have a lot of stay-at-home moms, right? So they don't have that opportunity to get that help. But working with these programs, increasing the outreach, and continuing to communicate and educate the members of the community, right, on these programs as they're coming up and as they're getting more funding as well.
Thank you.
Okay, your candidacy was sparked by a dispute over tax credits. So what is your framework for determining when a state tax incentive provides a measurable return on investment versus when it's unnecessary expense for the state budget?
So there's definitely more than one tax credit, right? Definitely a lot more than that on the bill. But when we look at it, right, we have to incentivize of the effect that it has on the population, right? Because if we're going to go ahead and we're going to be spending tax incentives, giving them benefits back to these community or to the corporations coming in, right? We have to make sure that the measurable effects are going to actually impact the community more so than we're going to be giving away. But when I looked at it as a Sony studio bill, right? These tax jobs, these are good paying union jobs. These union members, we have people on the bench that have been sitting for 4 or 5 months. So when you think about it, it's that same unemployment that results in them having to rely on these services, right, that we provide, where in reality, if they were working, these services could have been allocated to another individual that needed it. And that's the way I see it. It's a job creation bill. We have so many individuals that keep wanting to call Nevada home. And when we sit there and we think about it, we have the same jobs available for everyone. So not only are some of these individuals moving here not able to find a job, but also the same Nevadans that have been here for years are unable to compete for a job also. So we need to continue to grow. We need to diversify. And the reason for that being is people are going to keep moving here and we can't stop that.
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics. We were a union employer in California. There's a lot of people that are sitting on the bench because of their work ethics. It's not just that there's not enough work. How do you ensure by bringing jobs in, like the Sony studios, that they're not having to employ these people that don't have the proper qualifications? Because a lot of them we know are supposed to have 600 hours, and they're supposed to be in every field, whether it be drywall, metal stud framing, so on and so forth. They hire these people on, they make them do grunt work the whole time. They use up all their 600 hours, and now that person has no further training and is not really useful to another company. How do you fix that?
So, and one of those big things is the apprenticeship programs, right? There's been a huge evolution recently in the apprenticeship programs and the requirements that we have as a state. And that's why I always push these apprenticeship programs. Not only one for educating the older members. Like I was 25 years old when I joined the union, and I came from the non-union sector. So again, I had no credentials. I had nothing to prove that said I knew what I was doing. So they started me off at level 1, just like everybody else, and I had to go through these programs. So these programs, the benefit of that is you need to have not just on-the-job training hours, but you need to go to class. So you have your certifications. You have to pass your test. If you don't pass your test for Monday through Thursday when you have class, well, guess what? You're coming back Monday. And you have to keep doing it. And our union from the carpenters, we're very strict on that. And I do see a lot of other union halls employing these programs where on the weekends they're running these classes. They're making sure that their membership has the correct requirements that they need. And and again, like you did mention, it's an issue of getting the right members on the job, correct? And some of them do sit there because of work ethic. I'm not going to deny it. Trust me, I've seen it on the job all the time. But again, that's that conversation as a legislator we start having with these unions. Say, hey, look, if this is the manpower you need, we're going to need paperwork saying that, hey, look, these are the members that we have with the correct certifications. We're able to deploy them at the correct time and able to build accordingly. Because the last thing we want to do is be spending tax dollars just because. Right, when that tax money can be used in a different way, but that's not. But the challenge of the conversation has never been an issue to me. I'll happily sit there with my union reps and I'll tell them too. I'll complain all the time. I'm like, this guy is not a good worker. I was like, that's why he got laid off. And as a job site steward, that's something that I also have to take into consideration when they lay individuals off as well. And I will speak on behalf of the contractor if that's the right way to go about it.
Right. So during your introduction, you mentioned one of the things that inspired you to run or motivated you to run was attack on individual rights. Specifically, which rights do you feel are under attack within the state? Because you're running at the state level, not the federal level. How do you feel those rights are being attacked? And what do you think? What is your plan to do something about it?
Especially when we talk about a lot of these like individual rights, right? We talk about the individuals. My biggest thing is always like life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? So as a state government, we need to create those avenues for them to have that opportunity to go chase that dream, right? I'm a product of the American dream. So my parents, they moved here from Mexico and El Salvador. They came back, they saved up money, they both went back to college, and I'm here today because of that opportunity. But it's getting far and few from these individuals. So that specific right, when I look at it, is if individuals don't have the correct means to access these opportunities, right? How do we get them in front of them? College isn't for everyone. The people of my district cannot afford to go to college half the time. We're dealing with a $45,000 median household income in that district. Like, let's be honest, and most of the time that's between two parents working, and they have probably about 1 to 3 children. 1 to 3 children alone take the $45,000 just in the children. Right. So it's extremely expensive to do it. So that's when we start leveraging a lot on these union opportunities, and not just construction trade unions. We have unions like SCIU, we have unions like AFSCME, and these are great opportunities for these individuals to get their foot in the door, be able to chase that dream that they deserve. And that's really what I'm about. Is when I talk about what's Douglas Candido running on, those 3 principles that I talked about, the job creation, the safer neighborhoods, the workforce housing. You look back at it, it's all painting right back to the American dream. It's the same things that everyone deserves, and everyone deserves to be able to have the opportunity to chase those.
So I'm going to follow up because honestly, I did not hear a right that was taken away. Chasing American dream is not a right. It's something that people can do, and no one has taken away anyone's right. So I'm asking you again, what right do you think is under attack?
Well, I'm looking at it, and I'm not sure what right is it that you mentioned.
It was your statement that you feel rights are being under attack. So I'm asking you to clarify. In your opening statement, you said rights are under attack. What inspired you? You said attack on the individual rights was what motivated you to run. So I'm asking you what rights yes. So I'm asking you to clarify what rights you're saying are under attack.
I'm sorry, I don't remember mentioning that statement. I don't. I mean, if you believe it could be. Yeah, it's on camera, right? It definitely could be. But yeah, I couldn't say. I'm too sure exactly what right I was mentioning. Right? Yeah, not sure. It was something. Maybe it was something that was said. I'm not too sure. It's kind of not really a thought in my head currently.
Where do you stand on school choice and a voucher system?
It's like in regards to like charter systems.
Or going to private schools, using vouchers to go into private schools, and opting out of the public school system.
So for me, one of my big endorsements is the CCEA, right, which is the teachers union. I'm a product of public schools. And again, my big thing is always advocating for creating these public education systems that are going to be beneficial to our children. It is a tough conversation to be had, right? And there is a lot of work that has to be done. So my big thing is I'm going to stand with public schools. That's exactly where I stand from. And that's my background, right, when it comes to education, is the public school system.
Can I do a follow-up? You are aware that Nevada ranks right at the bottom of the list with public schools, correct?
Absolutely. And I know exactly. And I know that there's a lot of work that has to be done. 100%. I'm not opposed to charter school systems. I'm not opposed to people going to use vouchers and going to schools, but I will support public education because that's where I come from.
Hi, my name is Tara Kellogg. I wanted to follow up with your follow-up question, which was, I believe there was a quote or something that you had said about rights were being violated. And the first thing I thought of is civil rights. I mean, I can't tell you how many people daily, their rights are violated. And where do you go? How do you fix that? How do you make sure that everybody, no matter their economic stature, their race, their gender, everybody has the same civil rights?
So in terms of civil rights, right? I mean, the big first step one is always being an advocate, right? You have to be able to stand there and respect everyone's individuality, right? And that's the big first step, right? But also being an advocate in place, right? So as far as Douglas Candido as an assembly person or as a candidate, we have to be willing to make those statements, right, and have those tough conversations. We sit there and we look at all the time. And again, a lot of my experience where I pull from is my job sites, right? That's where I spend the majority of my time. It's very recent that women are now being allowed in the trades. It's very recent that the individuals are coming into the trades that are not your traditional man with the beard, smokes cigarettes, just eats his lunch, right? It's that dynamic is starting to die out. Right. And that was always my big thing as a job site steward, was ensuring that everyone felt comfortable on that job site first before anything. And if someone did feel uncomfortable, I'm not afraid to press that issue. Because as a steward, as someone that's a representative of the union and also the company that I'm working for, is no one deserves to be treated like less just because they're a little bit different. And even then, is those differences also bring a very powerful role. I mean, the person that taught me how to swing a hammer was a woman. There was no man there that said they wanted to take me under their wing and say, hey, this is how you do it. They let me just keep on doing it and wasting my time. And she said, hey, look, kid, I like your work ethic, but what you're doing is doing wrong. And I don't want to be mean to you, but let me show you how to do it. Right. And it was that moment that shifted my career. Right. Because now I'm a lot more efficient. I'm doing what I got to do. But sometimes that motherly role, right, that was something that was needed on those job sites that people were lacking. So again, we talk about those civil rights infringements. Is I have no problem going up and pursuing contractors or putting things on the board where it's like, hey, you guys are at fault right now. You guys need to be held accountable for it. That's never going to be an issue to me. Absolutely not. But I think it's holding the people accountable. That's really the biggest thing.
Thank you.
Okay, what in your background and your experience makes what you bring to the table more valuable than your opponent? What do you bring to the table that makes you a better candidate than the incumbent in this race?
Well, I've been getting involved in politics since I was in high school. A lot of my family were very active in. I went to Rancho High School, first of all. A lot of legislators that came out of Rancho High School, actually. But when I look back at it, we were always very involved in the Hispanic Student Union. Not me personally, but my family always was. So it was always these conversations that we had. But since 18 years old, I've been shouting out now a current sitting legislator. kind of getting involved in their campaigns and doing all that. So understanding the process behind everything. In 2023, I actually made a trip up to Carson City, where I was able to sit through through one of the days of the legislative session and just really learn, pick people's brains, like sit down. I was extended the privilege of going on to the actual floor, so I was able to sit there and really just understand what the whole process was behind it. I now sit on the Carpenters Political Action Committee as well. I mean, now as a candidate, let's say if we do end up winning the primary, now I can no longer be involved with them, right, as a legislator. But it always was good experience being involved there, going to the political directors conferences that we hold, and just kind of learning the perspective of it. Because my bread and butter is collective bargaining, union rights, and worker protections. But I've always been heavily involved in those things. Heavily involved in my union as far as the student outreach committee. We volunteer a lot as far as like food giveaways, and we also do a lot of work with Habitat for Humanity. So these experiences are all things that legislators do on their campaign trail, but we've been doing it just to volunteer, just to help people out. But even in my personal experience, when it comes to going up to the legislative session, is offer a real world perspective of someone that actually kind of came up from not really having much, but just a little bit of work ethic and a lot of luck kind of worked out, right? And like before I joined the union, I was living in my car. So I completely understand what it means to not have anything. And I also understand how it means to remain humble and keep building forward, right? And what's the goal after that next step? And I don't want anyone to have to go through what I had to get through to get to where I'm at today. So let's create a pathway for them to walk and actually like create some light, right? So they can actually follow the trail.
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics. How will you ensure veterans receive the support and services they've earned?
One of my big things is I've always been a big advocate for veterans' rights. One of my mentors was my cousin. He did 20 years in the military. And one of my biggest things was always kind of talking to him and understanding what it is that's important. Right now, I mean, the attack with Trump, right, saying that they were talking about the VA benefits, right, going off of the treatment and the effects that the treatment has instead of what rights they have. I think it is very honorable to go up there and serve your country. But for us as a state, whatever's lacking at a federal level, there are ways that we can check that and bolster that and say, hey, look, this is where we have to allocate funds as a state, right? As a state, we can always create programs to ensure veteran rights. I mean, veterans, they fall into the class of working class individuals in my eyes. And the trades were built by veterans after World War II. So it's almost a disservice to say that we're only fighting for union rights and not fighting for veterans' rights, because a lot of our members are veterans as well. And I see the toll that their career has taken onto them. There's a lot of good traits that come, right? Discipline, showing up on time, the work ethic. But as far as the legislator goes, one of the biggest things we can always go ahead and do is ensure that our state provides these programs, even if a state cuts it, right? We can always create legislation in place in order to provide benefits, the mental health services, access to doctors, right? Like, and even like our Medicaid, Medicare system, it's a little bit outdated, right? And it needs to have a little bit more benefit for these individuals to go through and get the treatment that they really need.
So you mentioned that you had you were afforded the opportunity to, I guess, go to see legislation being made or something to that effect. So give us your understanding of how legislation gets made from its very beginning all the way through to becoming a law. How does that work?
So I mean, the first thing obviously is you're working even behind the scenes, right? Like even before session, you're already thinking about what you're talking to community leaders, everything, and you're kind of seeing what is it that we can create in order to give us the opportunity to create an actual bill, right? And then one of the biggest things too is also working with the lobbyists to represent the organizations that it's going to impact. But on top of that is you're going to present a rough draft, right? You're going to create your policy, what it is, and this outlines what the law is going to do, what's going to affect. And once a policy is made, you're going to sit there and it's going to go through committees, right? These committees are going to vote, how is it going to go? Do we agree with this? Do we not agree with that? You're going to have revisions that go down. After these revisions are going down, it'll eventually be presented within the House that went ahead and presented the bill initially, goes through the other House, and then it goes up to get signed. A lot of times it's really difficult getting back and forth, right, or things like that, and adjustments are made. But the best way to describe it, to keep it simple, is you start off with a block of marble, and you try to polish the block as much as you can before you present it. And then once you present it, everyone's going to chip away at your block. And then you have to figure out how to polish it again, right? And get it to where it's effective legislation. But I think the biggest thing is just those active conversations, right? Is if, let's say we have a bill and there's a group that has a problem with one line that they're going to try to shut it down. Well, hey, how do we amend that one line? How do we make it so both of us can be happy, right? How can both of us meet somewhere in the middle? And I think a lot of what politics is a lot of negotiation. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah.
Other than legislation, what are the duties of an assemblyman?
To be involved in your community. You're an advocate for the people that you represent. And don't get me wrong, I'll accept donations from anyone. But at the end of the day, they have to understand that my vote belongs to my constituents because they're the ones that elected me in office. So as an assembly person, you're a representative of your district. So what that means is getting involved with these community groups. Is if you see a nonprofit that now you have a platform to speak, right, as an assembly person. But really, the main thing is going to be the legislation, the interim sessions, the passing the laws. But really, the biggest duty is to be an active individual and member of your community. And how can you better that community?
My question would go off of when you were talking about the different types of schools, public school versus charter schools versus, so you think that there should be a variation of different schools for whatever particularly fits with the particular child. I'll give you an example. My daughter, I did not want her in a public setting, a private school, so I sent her to a charter school. She went to school one day a week, and she got a scholarship to go to college. So that was the best fit for her. And then I remember during the time they were thinking about closing down charter schools. They didn't like them. So I just know the benefit for my daughter was definitely a charter school. I know public school and private schools are beneficial for others. And I hope that still continues. I hope that option still remains.
So when we look at it, right, like I said, I'm always going to be a big advocate for public schools. And the reason being a lot of the teachers, right, it is a selfless job. But also, I mean, we do have a tour scheduled with Civica, which is actually a charter school. So we're going to be doing that next week as well. But one of the programs that really interested me when it came to the high school side was you have Central Tech. These students go to school about 3 times a week, and then they're able to work or do whatever else they need. But they also have a focus on their curriculum, but also trade programs. Like I went to magnet schools, both for middle school and high school. So I was in the medical program over at Rancho, did math and science. My parents, again, they didn't want me just going to my traditional public school. So that was just an option for them that was still public, but it offered specialized programs. And within those specialized programs, I did grow a lot as a student, right? And I see these students at Central Tech. Over at our Carpenters Union Hall, we actually had a competition between like 4 or 5 different schools where they build sheds, and they're sponsored by a different contractor that we work with. But being able to see these high school students do things that I couldn't do until I was 24, 25 years old, it is extremely impressive. And again, one of the big things, again, it's parent choice, right? That's, I always wanted to give power to the parents, even with my nephews, right? If my little sister gives me the look, hey, sorry, man, I can't save you. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be the person to parent someone else's children. I will always give them that right and respect their responsibilities as a household. But yeah, I think that it is a great option. Although, I will stand with public schools because of the teachers. But I also do believe that parents do deserve a choice in where their students are educated and how they're educated.
Thank you.
Okay, artificial intelligence begins to impact the workforce, especially in service and administrative sectors. Folks like truck drivers, cab drivers are all concerned about these self-driving cars and all that type of thing taking over their job. What role should the state legislature play in regulating artificial intelligence use, protecting worker privacy, and managing potential job displacement?
We absolutely need to ensure that AI does not take jobs from individuals. One of my endorsements is also the Teamsters Union. We're dealing with these self-driving trucks, right? When I look at it again is, I see a working class individual that has a family. So these job displacements, what it does is you take benefits away from individuals that have been doing this for 15, 20, 30 years. They might even be 2-3 years before retiring. What are they going to do in the meantime? This is income that they relied on. So as a legislator, we need to absolutely avoid the issue of why are we displacing individuals for AI? Because ultimately AI, what it's doing is to reap corporations' profits. That's exactly what it's there for. It's a one-time investment for them. Maybe they have their maintenance or whatever, but you're taking away jobs from individuals that deserve the jobs. We've been doing it for years. Why are we trying to take it away from them? So I'm definitely anti-AI as a legislator. And especially even like you look at like positions like offices, things like that these are individuals that have been trained to do this job. Maybe they went to college to do this job. So it's an investment that they did. And now we're taking that away from them simply because someone made a program. And at the end of the day, this program is just going to reap benefits for the companies. And we need to focus on the people, not the businesses. Well, not the huge corporations. Small businesses, 100%. Yes.
You're a strong advocate of the union. We all know there's a lot of union dollar waste, a lot of trips that are taken that shouldn't be taken. What is your position on auditing any association that is funded by taxpayers' dollars?
So as far as when it's funded by taxpayer dollars, absolutely, it should be open to everyone, right? If our money is going to it. But then again, if an organization like a union, right, we're privately funded. So our secretary notes and all that stuff, our financials, they're open to every single member. As far as our local goes, when it comes to the international, I personally, I don't deal with the international. So I wouldn't be able to speak as far as like the dollar waste issue. I don't have any experience in that section, right? I've definitely heard it down the pipeline for sure. But I said I've never really looked into it so much. But to keep it simple, anything that public dollars are going to should be subject to an audit for sure, just for the transparency of it. Anything that's privately funded with no taxpayer dollars, I mean, that's kind of falls on the corporation, right? If they're losing money, that's kind of on them, not on us. Yeah.
All right. This concludes the interview portion of today's event. I'd like to give you a minute to do some closing remarks.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, it's a great opportunity. This is kind of the first one. It's kind of weird. Every time I hold the microphone now, it's really weird. Like normally I'm in my like backyard with like my chickens, like my horse. You know, that's like my big thing. I'm big with my animals. But yeah, I'm just a family person at the end of the day. That's who Douglas Candido is as an individual. Regardless of win or lose, any free time I have is going to be just right back with my family, advocating for working class individuals, and that's always going to be my main focus for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. This concludes our interviews. Once again, I'd like to recognize and thank all of our sponsors: Mary Perry, Clark County District Court Family Division, Department P, Veterans in Politics International, and Nevada Veterans Association, and all our additional sponsors and partners for their leadership, support, and dedication to veterans and to the integrity of our judicial process.
Thank you.
Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.